In survey sampling, the bias that results from an unrepresentative sample is called selection bias. In selection bias, there are three examples. Undercoverage occurs when some members of the population are inadequately represented in the sample. A classic example of undercoverage is the Literary Digest voter survey, which predicted that Alfred Landon would beat Franklin Roosevelt in the 1936 presidential election. The survey sample suffered from undercoverage of low-income voters, who tended to be Democrats. Undercoverage is often a problem with convenience samples. Voluntary response bias occurs when sample members are self-selected volunteers, as in voluntary samples. An example would be call-in radio shows that solicit audience participation in surveys on controversial topics. The resulting sample tends to overrepresent individuals who have strong opinions. Say that an after-school program targets struggling schools. In this case, comparing its participants to average students all across the city may be overly unfavorable to the tutoring program, but comparing its participants to other students at the same schools may be overly favorable. One of the reasons we are concerned about selection bias is because it gives the researchers substantial room for judgment calls in their choice of comparison group. When it comes to studies on nonprofits' impacts, we believe that researchers generally prefer to present the programs in a positive light, and thus tend to choose comparisons that favor the program. The term hindsight bias refers to the tendency people have to view events as more predictable than they really are. After an event, people often believe that they knew the outcome of the event before it actually happened. Hindsight bias matters in legal cases, where a judge or jury must determine whether a defendant was legally negligent in failing to foresee a hazard. Sankaro 2003. In an experiment based on an actual legal case, Kamen and Raklinski, 1995, asked two groups to estimate the probability of flood damage caused by blockage of a city-owned drawbridge. The control group was told only the background information known to the city when it decided not to hire a bridge watcher. The experimental group was given this information, plus the fact that a flood had actually occurred. Instructions stated the city was negligent if the foreseeable probability of flooding was greater than 10%. 76% of the control group concluded the flood was so unlikely that no precautions were necessary. 57% of the experimental group concluded the flood was so likely that failure to take precautions was legally negligent. A third experimental group was told the outcome and also explicitly instructed to avoid hindsight bias, which made no difference. 56% concluded the city was legally negligent.